Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah O'Keefe. Welcome to the Knowledge Integration webcast, The Future of Technical Communications. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to a great webcast with Tristan Bishop, who is our guest presenter today. A couple of brief housekeeping notes. You should be obviously hearing me at this point. If not, there are setting issues. You are actually muted, so all participants are muted. We would ask you to use the Questions tab over in the GoToWebinar panel to ask your questions. We are recording this webcast, but there's no there's no participant information that's going to appear in the recording, and we are going to cut off the recording before the Q&A session, so the Q&A session will not be recorded. And finally, we will send you an email with survey evaluation information after the webcast, so if you could go ahead and make sure that you fill that out, we would appreciate it. We use that feedback to drive future events. So with that, I'm happy to introduce Tristan Bishop, who's here to talk about knowledge integration. I have seen him present in person, and he is fun to be around, so I am looking forward to this. And Tristan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and hello, everybody. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm a big fan of Scriptorium and have been for many years, and also a deeply passionate advocate for our profession. I am excited to be a technical communicator and have been one for 15 years, and I believe that we have amazing power and potential, and I want to talk about that this morning. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's dear, and it is knowledge integration. And what I mean by that is going to become clear by the end of the hour, but it is, if I had to define it in a sentence, the ability to gather content from inside and outside the organization and incorporate it into our technical communication deliverables and share that directly with customers. So let me get started and talk a little bit about who I am and why I'm here. I work at a company called Symantec. I have been in the technical writing and knowledge management profession for about 10 or 15 years. It's hard to know exactly when the starting point was. I didn't know I was a tech writer until my boss told me so. But I have been enjoying collecting information from inside companies and from outside and compiling it, making it accurate, and sharing it for quite some time. So the fact that the web is evolving in such a way that new opportunities are being presented for us is a very exciting thing for me. Very proud to work at a company called Symantec Software, and most of you have heard of us. A lot of you will probably be familiar with us for our Norton consumer security product line. Norton Antivirus and Norton 360 tends to have a lot of name recognition. But we're a very large corporation, present in over 40 countries around the world, a $6 billion company, and coming up on 20,000 team members. This slide is still a little bit far behind. I think we're almost we're past 18,000, and we are a very global focused company. Our revenue is coming almost halfway from non-American sources. So definitely localization, you'll see in my presentation, is a huge factor for us, as global markets are a big deal for my company. I think the things that are probably impressive about working here is just the amount of responsibility we have for securing people's systems, for protecting people's information. It's estimated that half the world's data is secured or backed up by one of our products, which is very impressive to me. It's new for me. I got this information from our annual report and was flabbergasted. So I just wanted to give you that context as I go into talking about our profession. So what I'm going to cover today is how adjustments and changes in the landscape of business, and specifically in web and the internet, are setting the stage for a revision in the role of a technical communicator, how our jobs are simply going to be different because the environment around us is moving so rapidly. And I'm going to talk about 6 different ways that's happening. I'm going to talk about how we can respond by evolving past our typical job responsibilities into knowledge integrator role. And then I'm going to cover skills that will be necessary to take ownership of that role. And finally, I'm going to close with a bit of a case study on how we're putting these concepts into practice where I work. So let me start by talking about the changes in the landscape, and there are 6 of them, and they are significant. Many of them will be familiar for you, although the numbers might be a surprise. So first I'm going to talk about the rise of mobile communications, which is evident through our lives, but the statistics still continue to surprise me. I'm going to talk about the move from static content to dynamic content and what that means for tech writers. I'm going to talk about the move from book-based publishing to topic-based publishing. I'm going to talk about global knowledge and the need to optimize delivery for multiple cultures and languages. I'm going to talk about tech support from the web rather than from phone calls, the ability to deploy self-service through web topics and how that, again, affects technical writers. And finally, the rise of user-generated content. These are the 6 factors that are setting the stage and making it necessary for our role to evolve. So, most of you are familiar with the Gilbane Group. They work in our space and do a tremendous amount of proactive research and good. And they, in their most recent report on multilingual communications, talked about how established content practices are undergoing profound and fundamental changes. And I wanted to read that quote so I could say these words again, profound and fundamental, because those 2 words are significant. There is a major shift underway. I want to talk about mobile communications and the rise there. It is only 10 years ago that across the global population, 1 out of every 10 people owned a cell phone. This information comes from the International Telecommunications Annual Reports, and they surveyed in 2000 and found that in all of developing nations, in all of nations with modern economies, it was about 1 in 10 of global citizens. By the end of 2009, that statistic had changed to 6 out of 10 people owning a mobile device, which is astonishing change, one that I did not notice happening. And I have recently read some information from Ericsson that it's up to 7 of 10 already by midpoint of 2010. So of the 6 billion global citizens, 70% of them are currently carrying a mobile device of some sort. That is a rapid cultural shift unlike any we've seen in quite some time. Definitely setting the stage for a different method of communicating. And now I'm going to go into a bit of a detailed delivery on how content itself worldwide is evolving from static presentation to dynamic methods. And I'm going to talk about a few different medium. The first one is news. And many of you may still enjoy a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee and the Sunday paper. I remember that being a very fond memory for me. But it has been, for me personally, about 10 years since I've physically had a subscription to a hard copy newspaper. And I know I'm not alone there. We're watching record declines in circulation. The statistics and charts that are mapping the trend are predicting that physical newspaper circulation will either disappear by, at the earliest, 2017 or somewhere in the 2020s. So we are evolving past that medium. And a recent report from Vanity Fair talked about bankruptcy for all the big city U.S. newspapers in the near-term future. And the reason is news has gone to other mediums, whether it's the web or in specific mobile devices and smartphones. I now get all of my news personally from either my iPhone or my Trio or just from a browser. So this is one method where the change from static to dynamic content is pretty obvious from the numbers. There are some other methods. I don't know if you remember the days where you would be lost on a side street and reach for your glove compartment and take out a big map and unfold it and find your spot and then try to fold it back up, which was always challenging. Again, for me, it's been 5 to 10 years since I've done that. And the reason is GPS. My Honda Odyssey has a built-in GPS, and it talks to me, and it speaks kindly to me and tells me where to turn. And even native GPS within vehicles is a market that has reached its peak and is now being replaced. We are finding that you can pay a lot of money to buy a standalone GPS, or you can simply add GPS to your smartphone for a very small amount of money. Again, the iPhone 4 that I got last week has GPS right on it. It didn't cost me a thing. So I doubt I'm going to pay my $200 to the Honda subscription. And I'm much less likely to buy a physical hard copy road atlas. So we are seeing just a rapid change in navigation moving from static to dynamic content. Static maps are not aware of construction. They're not aware of traffic patterns. And all of these things are available through dynamic navigation applications. So another way that content is moving. Here's a third way that content's moving from static to dynamic, and those are directories. I think one of the largest culprits of environmental challenge for me is the stack of yellow pages that seem to show up on my door every 2 months. They go right into the recycling bin. I haven't personally thumbed through a hard copy yellow page, except for in a hotel, again, in a decade. And in this space, the industry is aware of the shift, and they have been retraining their sales staff, and they now deploy directory services through online methods and are selling their advertising that way. So again, looking up a phone number is becoming something that is no longer delivered through a static method. And that makes a ton of sense. I don't know if you've heard the old statistic that each person in your address book moves every 5 years, and therefore 20% of your address book becomes invalid every year. That's for hard copy book. So after 5 years, you essentially have an address book that's not useful at all. Moving to a dynamic directory allows you to have relevant, accurate, up-to-date directory information all the time. And really, that's important for the last thing I'm going to discuss in terms of static and dynamic, which is our space, and that's product content. In the same way that phone numbers change in a directory, but the hard copy yellow pages doesn't reflect it, and in the same way that new roads are added to a map, but a printed map in your Gov compartment doesn't reflect it, and in the same way that news progresses throughout the day, but the morning paper doesn't reflect it, dynamic product content has the ability to bring the customer the most current, most relevant, real-time information about the product they use. We are no longer locked down to the release date. We no longer have to make press and production timelines and dates. It is no longer the method by which people prefer to receive their information. And so here's a quote from a good friend, Larry Coons, who is at SDI, and he is admonishing all of us to learn how to deliver targeted, just-in-time information, just to help the reader get what they need and get on with the task. So right now I am seeing in the space a rise of help delivery applications that are optimized for mobile devices, and even on websites, the ability to push real-time updates on released product documentation so that the customers are always getting the most accurate content. So this is a big shift for us, but in the same way that you're not going to find as many physical newspapers, maps, and yellow page directories lying around, you're going to see less and less physical hard copy product manuals. It just simply is gone. In fact, at Symantec, we've moved away from shipping physically printed manuals in our boxes. We used to make it available for people who wanted to order it, but on some of our major product releases, we have had absolutely 0 orders in the last year or two. People simply are not spending the money to have a hard copy shipped of a doc that they can access online. So it has its time and its place, but its time seems to be moving past us. So I go on. Another major shift is the move to topic-based publishing, and that's probably a concept you've heard about before, but I want to discuss a little bit about why that is. I used to sit down when I wanted to read, and I would take a book, and I would read the book. I might read a chapter at a time, but I was reading that book. With the rise of the Internet, my preference has switched to the reading of the page, the web page, the single section, topic, or thought. And in the last 10 or 20 years, most of us have been reading article-level things, topic-level things, web pages. It's a shift in attention span, in focus, and it's just an evolution. And so between these two things, the shift to dynamic content and the shift in attention span toward the topic-level chunk of data, traditional TechCom delivery methods are rapidly becoming as obsolete as a Betamax or VHS tape. So just wanted to do that. Now it's time for a little poll. I have nice little colored people here, rainbow folks holding their little stuff. And Sarah, I want to turn it over to you, I think, or do I keep talking and you just put it up?
You can certainly keep talking. I've launched the poll, and you can check as many as are appropriate. And also, if you did want to check other, feel free to specify what your other is in the questions section.
So just to get a sense of who's attending today and kind of where your organization is, I'm wanting to find out how many of your companies are actually putting physical paper documentation in the product itself. I know you're going to find that in hardware delivery more often, I think, than software these days. And then which of you are shipping PDFs or help systems on a CD or DVD in the box, and which of you are simply providing URLs, links to content that's getting dynamically updated on the web. Definitely interested in that. And for those of you that have already clicked your answers and are now waiting patiently, I will keep my promise to not allow dead air by telling you a very silly joke, which is, why did the Energizer Bunny spend the weekend in the county jail? And the answer...
Well, we're up to 97% voted.
Okay, I'm going to give you the answer, and we're going to move on. And I'm going to give you the answer because you're all on mute, and I can't hear you groan. But the answer is, the reason the Energizer Bunny spent the weekend in the county jail is he was charged with multiple batteries. Ba-dum-bum. Okay, thank you. All right, on we go. Yeah, telling jokes is bad without laughter or groaning, but at least I got a groan from Sarah O'Keefe. So
you're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
There you go. I'm going back on mute now. Go ahead. There's your poll result, and let me know when you want to kill it off.
Well, I can't. I have to click something to see them. So let me see them. Here we go. Poll results. Okay, good. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So the results, for those of you who can or can't see them, 32% of you are including hard copy manuals in the boxes. 59% are providing files on CD or DVD. 70% are providing URLs to online content. So we have a wide range and a lot of variety, and that's good. That's good.
And a couple of responses in the question area, including one person who got in a groan via the questions area.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. At least I know people
Other
are
delivered online hosted help knowledge base, which includes PDF for on-demand printed doc, and the other one is also PDF downloadable from website, HTML-based help on web server.
Perfect. Excellent. It's good to know. So let me advance my slide. I can't figure out how. The poll is here we go. So what we are involved in, and what I have noticed of late, is that many of us are so busy trying to meet our deadlines and get last-minute input from QA on bugs and features and try to catch the features that are coming in from development right before our release date. We're very focused and head down on getting our stuff done and out the door for the general availability ship date. Very few of us have had the time or have taken the time to study the landscape and go, hey, we've got something going on here that's really, really different. And so I'm going to just sort of summarize some of that today. But I saw this cartoon. I made this cartoon, actually, myself. And I don't know if you can see it. Can you see my time travel cartoon? So in Dallas, I had a couple people come up and act this out when we did this in person. But I'm not going to do that today. So send your groans or chuckles via the chat or comments, and I will move on. But basically, the premise of the cartoon is things are changing. Times have changed. Simply handing someone a hard copy manual is not going to meet the needs of the future consumer of our products. And many folks that I've talked to haven't spent much time thinking about the adjustments in our profession. I would imagine those of you on this call are spending time thinking about that, which is why you took time to attend it. But in order to meet the needs of communication worldwide, we've got to move beyond our traditional delivery method of large manuals that are written in book format and be able to deliver the answers that people need quickly and in the method that they want. So just a couple more landscape shifts, and then we'll go into what knowledge integration is and how we go about it. One of these is global knowledge requirements. That's been a factor for many of us for a long time. But what's happened in a lot of industries I've watched is we've reached the extent of our market share in the primary market, and the only way to continue to grow quarterly revenue is to look for new markets to enter. I will give you an example here at Symantec. We have some core data center products that exist very low in the network stack, Veritas Volume Manager and File System. There was a point in time, and I think it's still the case, that we had those products installed in 98% of the Fortune 500. So there's not much room to grow your market share there. And yet those products were good, and we wanted everyone to use them. The way for us to extend our reach then was to localize those products, internationalize them, and move into other markets. And so at this point, we're operating in 40 countries, and that required that the technical writers at Symantec make some adjustments in order to make that possible. Now, the cartoon demonstrates what a global knowledge strategy is not. It is not reactive it is in fact proactive. And I'm a Gary Larson fan, so I thought I would include this here. But what we do is we use English as a base language, as many firms do, and then we have automated tools that optimize the English so that machine translation can happen for the languages in which that's supported. So our entire technical communication paradigm is based on the foundation that we are delivering to up to 40 different locales, and we need to optimize for that. So each of our writers is aware that writing for that kind of environment is slightly different, and we have tools in place to adjust for that. But that is an industry-wide adjustment to the globalization of business, and so that's something that's affecting documentation. Two more, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about tech support. I should have had another poll here, which was raise your hand if you get an eye twitch when you have to call an 800 number because you just can't figure out what to do. I am not happy about 800 numbers. I don't love calling them at all. And my wife does the 800 number calling. It's not for me. But in our house. So I want to talk about self-service web-based tech support and how important that is. People entering the labor force today have had the web their whole life, and they are not used to picking up the phone to solve a problem or get an answer. It's just not in their worldview. And we are finding that interactions across industry toward 800 numbers and telephone for support are actually decreasing. And the great thing is, as technical communicators, we often are the most skilled writers within our organization. And the information that is in our documentation set is usually the most helpful content for providing answers online. The challenge is some of that information has usually been locked away in a large PDF file that's difficult to index and provide in a granular way. And I believe a friend of mine, Adam Newton, at NetApp, may just be on this call. Many of his ideas, when he worked together with me at Symantec, have led to some great success for us. So Adam, if you're out there, hello. I just wanted to talk about how technical writers stand kind of at the threshold between enabling self-service support in a positive way or holding the company back. And we've got this incredible opportunity to demonstrate our value to the profession by working together and partnering with support. The graphic on the right here is from the TSIA, that's the Technology Services Industry Association. They are a technical support organization much like the STC is for technical communicators. And they've been analyzing the percentage of issues that come in to support sites. And as you can see, the blue area, which is the phone, has been rapidly decreasing from 60% now to 35% in the last 3-4 years. And the black bar there you see is the self-service percentage, and that is topics that we in TechCom are putting on the web that are solving customer issues and deflecting phone calls. So I'm also noticing a portion of technical communicators involved in the community and social aspect of support. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. That's forums, that's social media, other methods of support. But you can now see that online interactions for tech support are now 65% of the interactions across the industries, and 35% are by the phone, and that's just going to continue. The Forrester Analytics, they are an agency that studies these things. Average worldwide phone interactions cost $12, and self-support costs 25 cents, meaning the time it takes for someone to write and put up a topic divided by the number of people that use it is a quarter per impression, whereas each phone call is more like $12. Those numbers don't correspond to an industry like mine, which is deep technical software support. Our phone support costs are much higher than that, and so any call deflection that can be accomplished by technical writers is a huge win for the company, and it's a way I've been able to really advocate for technical communicators and show the value we're adding here at Symantec, and just get some great impressions with high-level executives showing the value that the information developers at my organization are adding. So the last landscape-changing item that I want to cover before we go into the detail is the rise of user-generated content, and this is probably not news for any of you, but I want to talk about, sort of the history of the web. In the beginning, the brands or the companies would create content, and we, the consumer, would read it. And that's what it was. It was a one-directional communication. Obviously, in the last few years, with the rise of what they call Web 2.0, both parties are writing content. Customers are writing on blogs, we're contributing on forums, there are wikis, and some folks say that Wikipedia has been studied and found to be more accurate than Encyclopedia Britannica on the average. I can't cite that statistic, I read it yesterday, but it alarmed me. But basically everyone's writing. But here's what's starting to happen now and what you're going to see from the web tomorrow. Corporations are now listening to the customer. There are huge efforts to set up social analytic tools and monitor discussion about your brands on the web so that they can accurately respond. So for the first time, the company is listening to what the customer is writing. And that is a shift. And what we're going to see, and I quote our friend Sarah, my gracious hostess, is that technical communicators now have to compete with the information being generated by the user community. We write our manual, we write our help topic, and we put it up there. But we're not the only game in town anymore. Customers are creating information about our products. They're putting solutions, best practices up on their blogs, putting them in forums. I'm going to show you some specific examples at Symantec that blew my mind, where customer communities have formed around our products that didn't even involve any of our employees. And we've got to be aware that that's out there. We no longer own the information about our products. It's equally accessible from anywhere if you start with Google or one of the browsers. So now I want to get into knowledge integration and talk about what it means to find the knowledge that's out there and integrate it into your documentation and deliver it. Basically, again from Gilbane, we're kind of in a new space now. It's uncharted territory. Customers are basically part of our content lifecycle. They are contributing information too, and there are more of them than there are of us. There is no company that can employ more writers than it has customers and still succeed financially. There are always going to be more customers than writers. And as a higher and higher percentage of customers start adding to our documentation, we're going to need methods in place to incorporate it and maximize it and bring it back in. And so that's what I want to talk about here. Becoming a knowledge integrator, adding knowledge integration to your role. And what we're going to do, increasingly in the future, is you're going to see technical writers finding the need to partner within their own organization, gathering content from all over that can proactively solve customer issues, reducing the need for incoming support calls. And we're basically going to move from sitting in a quiet office and writing from a spec to really a higher level of social engagement, both with customers and team members within inside our organization. And this is more comfortable for some than others, but it is a mandate of the evolution of the profession based on what's going on out there in the world. So 4 things a knowledge integrator will do. They'll gather content. And again, this is over and above our responsibility to author new content for upcoming releases. This is almost a support role for existing releases that are in the field. We're going to be gathering whatever it is we forgot to write or didn't know to write. We're going to be checking the accuracy of it with our subject matter experts. We're going to make sure it complies with our branding requirements, and we're going to push it back out where it's necessary. And almost different from any notion of the profession in the past, Louis Maracio here talks about how we can become a social conduit by which companies interact with users. I don't know if each of you will find yourself going all the way to a point of contact, but we will certainly be integrating their information. So, number 1, got to get out there on the web and figure out what we missed. Oftentimes we'll put out a product, put out the documentation, and if we've got our web analytics going, we can quickly see that some of these topics are working well, some of them aren't, and some of them are simply missing. So we're going to be reviewing customer comments, studying web analytics results, looking at trending topics in the tech support forums, monitoring automated keyword alerts, and we're going to realize, hey, this product's out, people like it, but we should have written these 7 topics because these are the things that we're getting questions on here and there, and we've got to go write them. And so what we'll do is we will go get that information. And one of the reasons is a customer will often simply take to a search engine to find information rather than come to our site, log in, and search our knowledge base. We're seeing more and more folks that are just simply using Bing or Google to try to find their answer. And statistically, at least a quarter of those results go to external non-branded sources. For example, if I were to go type in Command Central Storage, which is one of our products, into Google, I would get 100 results. At least 25 of those results would not be Symantec branded or Symantec authored content. I actually think that number is quite low. That's a statistic from over a year ago. I wouldn't be surprised if that number had switched or even doubled by now. So what do you have to do once you've gathered content from outside? Well, you've got to make sure your relationships are tight internally and that you have a service level agreement with subject matter experts so you can turn things around quickly. We've found that if a topic starts really trending on the web, or we're just starting to get an incredible high volume of phone calls coming in on a topic, we need people in place to write a topic quickly, validate that topic, and put it up online fast so we can deflect some calls and get that answer out there. So you want to arrange for that. You also need to know your branding requirements. It's better to have those relationships in-house. For most of you, that's not a huge issue, but in certain cases, if there are mergers or acquisitions going on or product naming or conventions around capitalization, it's just good to understand what those things are. We've had some shifts internally. We acquire several companies a year, and it's very important for us to know exactly how we're supposed to be describing each product. So once we've gathered content, verified it with the technical experts, rebranded it, we can push it right back. And the first thing we do is add it to our online knowledge base, meta tag it so it shows up in a search. If something is really hot in a global space, for example, we're getting a lot of Japanese phone calls for a particular issue, we would want to localize that topic immediately and push it to the Japanese version of our portal. One thing I'm excited that we're going to be looking at doing is, for those of you who use Symantec Consumer Security, we have a feature called Live Update where we push new virus protection prescriptions down to our subscribers. We're working on, within the technical communication community, the ability to push updated technical content right down into the help systems and often feature it on the splash page and that sort of thing. So if there is a hot issue, we're looking for a way to push that right to our customers and to deflect the call. And finally, working on optimizing our content for mobile viewing, because the statistics are showing an alarming rise in smartphone use, Droid, Apple iPhone, and even iPad and various mobile devices. So we're trying to be ready to deliver our PDFs in the Kindle format, whatever it's going to take. So that's what a Knowledge Integrator will need to do. And I'm going to talk about what kind of skills today's technical communicator needs to have ready for when the role begins to require this sort of thing. So some of you will ask, why can't I just do what I've always done? Actually, probably no one on this call will ask that question, or you wouldn't have taken the time to attend it. But I do find people going, why does it have to change? I love what I do. I like the solitude. I like the focus. Unfortunately, the industry is changing around us. I don't know if you've observed it, but some companies are outsourcing the technical documentation function. We see reduction in force, and it is imperative that we demonstrate the business value that we have. Technical communicators have incredible skill, great insight, writing ability, and we, among all people within a company, are usually the ones most able to parse a lot of information, determine what's important, and push it back out. There are few teams that are better equipped to monitor the fire hose of data and determine just what the customer needs. So we want to prepare ourselves for this role. And there are 3 skills that I think are essential to get ready. One of those is the ability to reconceive the profession in terms of topic-based writing. The second is just a basic understanding of the nuts and bolts of XML publishing. And the third one, and almost the most important, is a real comfort with social media. So let's talk about, I think many of you will have experienced topic-based writing instruction from various seminars and the like webinars, but topic-based authoring is a different approach than book-based authoring, and there are industry standards around it that have already evolved. Many of you have heard of DITA, and DITA is a great method of structuring information, but even more important than the particular aspect of the DITA, DTD, is the notion that each topic has sort of a discrete purpose. And at Symantec, we chunk our topics into groups. We use concept topics, which describe a thing. We use task topics, which help someone get something done. And we use reference topics, which are either manual pages or lists of options for commands, very different types of information. And these are the sort of granular chunks that you want to be familiar with to move into the role. Secondly, XML publishing is something most of you are familiar with, but even if you work at a shop that's still authoring in a binary data format, meaning FrameMaker or MS Word or that sort of thing, it would be very helpful for you to be aware of the differences. XML is data. It's not pages, and it has a hierarchy. It's not flat. Everything is a node, and understanding this really frees you up. And I wrote a little acronym I like, which is WYSIWYG DTP is EOL, which means the whole notion of what you see is what you get, and the desktop publishing notion is really end of life. That doesn't mean that there aren't still people who prefer to read things in that method, but it's no longer the supported method of delivery. And that's because you no longer, when you're writing, can really know what device or method someone's going to use to read it. You could write it in one way with one intent in mind, and someone could be reviewing your information on a totally different device, and that is just the future. So understanding how that works is really useful. Finally, and crucially, here's a quote about XML. I'm just going to pass over it. But basically, XML now is the default data format for all the Office suites. Microsoft and everything ships as XML. When I first started talking about it, it was abstract and possible, and now it is reality. So let me talk about social media. Many of you may already be well engaged. Maybe you have a Facebook account. Maybe your resume is on LinkedIn. Maybe you're on Twitter learning from folks who are tweeting. I know I was scared of Twitter because I thought it was people just telling me what they're having for lunch. But I know personally I have learned more on Twitter in the last few months than in an entire semester of college from people that are just really making things happen. So let's talk about just some reasons why social media is a huge factor for technical communicators. Half the world's population is under 30 years old, and 96% of them have joined at least one social network. This is the new method for interaction. And if Facebook were a country, it would be the third largest country in the world. There are more Facebook users than there are citizens in the United States, and it's growing rapidly. And there's an option called Facebook Connect, which allows a person to express admiration for something on a website from their Facebook account that I'm going to talk about in the next slide. Over 80,000 websites have opted in to that since they've rolled that out. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. But social media, if you're not already participating in it, it's not a fad. It's a shift in how people communicate. And for you as a future knowledge integrating tech writer, you're going to want to understand intuitively how that works. So am I advocating that you get out there and put pictures of your family up for everyone to see? No, I am not. I work at one of the most security-conscious companies in the world, and you must protect yourself. But it would be extremely unwise not to create basic user profiles at these prominent sites and start exploring and look at the way people are exchanging data. Because meta tagging on social media is evolved past anything I've seen in technical communication. I'll give you an example. When you're in Twitter, you write a small interaction, 140-character message, and you send it. And it goes to everybody who has chosen to follow you. Well, it also goes to Google, and Google indexes it. And when someone searches on you or anything else, it pops up in the results string. That's either scary or encouraging, depending on what you're trying to do. But if you use a hashtag, you suddenly become part of a metadata conversation. So I tweet often with the TechCom hashtag. I'll put #TECHCOMM in a tweet if it's relevant to our industry. That means anyone following that hashtag gets that information, whether they're following me or not. And I'm watching topics trend based on hashtags. For example, you'll see in the top right here, that's my Twitter account, Knowledge Bishop. The most trending topic worldwide when I took this screenshot was Justin Bieber. If you don't know who he is, you do not have teenage kids, but he is a pop singer. But that means that at that moment, more people were talking about him than anything else. Well, you can see iPads is number 2. This screen was taken right when the iPad was coming out. So companies are tracking this sort of thing, and the potential for the metadata interchange is amazing. at the bottom, you'll see an example of Facebook Connect, and that is if you're logged into some website, say the Internet Movie Database here, and you're looking at a movie you enjoy, like Avatar or something, if you've already logged into Facebook that morning, you get this little like button on there, and you can say, I like this movie, and that pushes back to your Facebook page and alerts all your Facebook friends, hey, Tristan likes Avatar. Well, why does that matter? Well, the research shows that consumers trust recommendations from friends about 70%, 78%, whereas brand advertising, they only trust 17%. So the brands have figured out, if I can get word of mouth going here through social media, my advertising is so much more effective. They trust their friends, they don't trust me. So metadata, it's huge, and people are talking about your products. They're talking about them right now. So let's go to our second poll. I realize I'm running short on time here, so I'm going to move through this last part pretty quick. But this poll, and Sarah, you can start it, is I'm just wondering, for those of you on the call, what facility do you already have in this area? Some of you may already be engaged in all three areas. I assume many of you are doing topic-based publishing, and most of you are doing XML publishing. What I find is that it is not typical that social media is an active part of most technical communicators' life. But again, it varies by the person. So, Sarah, I'm going to let you open the poll, and I see it moving. Oh, look at that. We're a very engaged crowd. So far, it's 88% topic-based publishing, 61% XML publishing, and over half of us are engaged in social media. So you are a fairly advanced group, and perhaps others in your organization may benefit from seeing this slide deck, and you are, I think, going to be able to access it and share it with them. So you folks will be the catalysts. I'm sorry?
We're up to 92% that have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close this and share the results, and just let me know when you want to dismiss it.
That's great. So that's 83% of you are already doing topic-based publishing, 61% are publishing in XML, and over half of you are already using social media. So for the half that hasn't yet dabbled in social media, note that I am not telling you how to live your life. I am advocating for your professional development, that you gain these skills so that you can help your company optimize your brand's perception and value out there in the space. I am suggesting you do this for your job, not personally. You can live your social life as privately as you want, but customers are now very engaged in discussing brands on the web. So I'm going to buzz through this use case in about 5 minutes, moving pretty quickly since I want to leave some time for questions. But I just want to show you some of the things we've done at Symantec around this. Sarah, did you have something to add? No. Okay.
No, I was just dismissing the poll unsuccessfully.
Good. So we've got several products at Symantec, a couple hundred really. I'm going to focus on one I work with a lot. It's called Backup Exec. It's a Windows product. It's backup for small business for Windows, 1.5 million customers, 11 languages. And a couple years ago, our information development team, the tech writers, did a survey, and they found out that the customers weren't using the PDFs, and they weren't going to our knowledge base. They were using Google. The people often using Google was 500 times higher than those who often use the PDF. 500% higher. The problem is we didn't have anything available on Google. We hadn't made our topics available for indexing. And we checked our Google results, and we weren't the first thing coming up. So we quickly took the docs and worked to get the content chunked up and topic-based and delivered to the web and meta-tagged, and things have changed. And what I want to show you is the great results. In the last 2 years, we have now put almost 5,000 topics for this one product on Symantec.com and indexed them for Google search, and the results have been overwhelming. If the demand is there and you put the stuff up there, you're going to get results. So this February, we had over 1.5 million hits on these information development web topics for this one product alone. And the ratio of those to those who look for the PDF is 26:1. So there are still people, out of 100, 4 people are still looking for the PDF, but 95 of them, or 96 of them, are looking for something quicker, shorter, more granular, and in HTML. So that's a big deal. And this is a huge slide I do not have time to cover today, but if you download the deck, this is the method we use to deliver our information. It's the set of tools and how they interact and how we get from our content management system through XML translated and either to web or to shrink wrap. So That is a whole nother phone call that I could do, but I'm not going to do it now. Going forward, we have a new front end going live in a couple weeks for this content out on the web. And the cool thing is we are going to be tracking customer engagement with each topic. So in a matter of months, each technical communicator will receive scores on the content. Is this article useful? Did it solve my problem? Did it deflect a call? Does it need improvement? Are there customer comments? What is the value? Each article is going to receive an article value index. And that means that TechCom is going to go from being something we just fire and forget to sort of a dialogue with customers, and we're going to get the data, and we're moving into an age of accountability that is both exciting and terrifying depending on how well we write. So we've always wanted this information, and now we're going to get it. A great thing about the knowledge management system that we're about to deploy is it allows us to take the localized content that we store in XML and deliver it on the web. The customers have a drop-down menu. They can select their preferred language. And this is actually the first time at Symantec we've delivered technical publishing topics in multiple languages on Symantec.com. So you'd think we would have done this years ago, but amazingly, very few tech writing teams have been able to connect the dots across the industries and get this sort of thing going online. So I'm super excited about how the rest of the year is going to go for us. Let me just show you the knowledge integration aspect now that we have that going. I'm working pretty closely with the backup exec team. They're kind of my pilot team. And what I have found is astonishing. The amount of content, user-generated content that our customers are creating is profound. I found the backup exec FAQ. You can see here on the right it says, help for users by users. And it's a whole list of frequently answered questions. We're not writing this. And so our documentation manager has assigned people to monitor it, to go through it. Anything we missed, they're going to rework and push back through our channels. The bottom screenshot shows the backup exec forum. Again, that's external to our firewall. And what's incredible is, I don't know if you can see on the screenshot, but under the word Symantec on that bottom screenshot, you'll see 31,279 members. There are over 30,000 of our customers talking to each other, providing answers to each other about our product, one of our 200 products, and we are not engaged there. So we have deployed resources to analyze this content, study it, monitor it, review it, and if it's relevant and helpful, push it back through. We're also doing some work inside our firewall to help, creating customer communities. We've got people blogging on each product, and we're finding that customers are putting comments on the blog that are providing questions. This top screenshot here, the comment says, are there hot fixes that are needed from live update in BE 2010? Is there a new specific firmware for data domain? So there's a list of topics coming in on a blog, comments from customers. What our technical writers can do is go in and simply paste in links to our knowledge base that answer the question, if we've already written it, and if not, collect those questions and say, does it make sense for us to write up a topic about this question? If one customer is taking the time to ask this question, how many hundreds or thousands would love the answer that aren't taking that time? We've also got forums. The bottom screen on the right shows our community feed. These are the comments coming from our customers that are dialoguing with us. We've got somebody assigned in the TechPubs team. They actually share this responsibility, but they take turns on different days keeping up with the feed, making sure that we understand what's being asked, and it's kind of exciting. So that's what we're doing, and I want to conclude and make some time for questions. But the bottom line, if I have to sum it all up, is communication's changed. It's changed forever. It's not a fad, and it's not going back. It's global now. It's instant, and our role as communicators has to evolve with communication itself. We are technical communicators in that we communicate about technology, but communication has changed, and so we too must change. And we have an opportunity as the strongest population of writers in a company to drive incredible value in this new era and to move technical writing from being thought of as a cost center to be thought of as a brand equity increasing agent, something really powerful. So in order to prepare ourselves, we'd be wise to proactively get familiar with the skills we need to really make the most of this. So this concludes the recorded portion of our webinar. We're now going to pause briefly, and then I'd be happy to spend the last few minutes taking questions. And my information is here. This is my email, and that's my Twitter handle, and I would be happy to take